Welcome to Cafe Hub. This is a new program that the Hub has initiated. A lot of you might recall your friends who are not engineering majors had meet their faculty last semester. This is an alternative to that where you're meeting your faculty, but in the lounge, and we're just going to have a mingle after this where you can kind of talk to your faculty members, talk to your peers here, and we have snacks. So what's not to enjoy, right? Thanks for coming. If you haven't met me already, my name is Karen Lewis, and I am your advisor for this first year. If you haven't met me yet, you're going to this semester because we require a meeting in the spring semester. So this semester, you're going to be meeting with me for what I've emailed you about. It's called a SAM advising meeting. So there's going to be a hold on your account until you come and meet with me to discuss registration for fall. So you'll be unable to register for fall classes until you meet with me. Now next spring, you're going to be meeting with one of these gentlemen who are your advisors, and they will have the power to lift that mighty SAM hold, okay? So we're going to...
SAM doesn't include that SAM, right?
Well, we are in Troy. So Professor Picu and Professor Hurst are the faculty advisors for mechanical. You should have received an email designating who specifically is your faculty advisor. And we're going to get into more details, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves to you shortly. But I have a couple of things that I just want to go over with you specifically. So, this fancy graphic, sorry guys, everybody. This shows the partnership between the faculty and us, the Hub advisors. So what we do in the School of Engineering, which is a little unique to other majors on campus, we partner with faculty rather than you guys receiving a faculty advisor right from the beginning. And the reason we do that is because we take care of all the logistics. The Hub advisors want to make sure that you understand what your HOS requirements are. They want to make sure that you actually understand your curriculum requirements. All of the stuff that you brought in with APs, we take care of. All of that kind of stuff is important, and it happens within your first year. Moving on, the faculty advisors get to advise on the good stuff, specifically mechanical. So if you have questions about research, these are the guys you want to talk to. Anything that's really specific about working in the industry, about how to write proposals, anything that you have specific to mechanical engineering, these are the guys that you're going to want to actually have those conversations with. So we take care of the logistics stuff, and then they take care of the good stuff. So the partnership's important because you have that backup, okay? And speaking, I wanted to go over a couple of important deadlines that you have this semester. So a couple that are really important is the drop deadline for courses is March 6th. And that means that if you have any courses that you're concerned about, you might not be performing as well, come talk to me specifically because we can come up with a plan to see whether or not dropping the class is appropriate. And if you drop it before the drop deadline, it's like it wipes the slate clean and it never existed. But before you drop courses, I want you to talk to me because we want to make sure A, you maintain full-time status because you get in trouble with housing and financial aid if you don't. And B, I want to make sure that you don't delay graduation by dropping a course. So March is consultation month, which is also the other thing that I was talking about with that SAM hold. So registration's at the end of March, and you really want to get in and see me. You can come in tomorrow, for all I care, to have your SAM hold lifted. So anytime between now and the end of March, come see us and basically make an appointment with your four-year plan or an idea of what courses you plan to take for the fall, and we'll go over that. And then the other thing that's really important is the pass no credit deadline. And if you don't know does everybody know what a pass no credit is? Yes? Okay, well if you don't, that's something else we can talk about at our SAM meeting. But pass no credit deadline is April 4th. So if you're considering pass no crediting any pre-electives or HOS courses, which are what can be pass no credited, come talk to me and we will fill out the paperwork for that as well. So let's move on. So one of the really cool things about being a mechanical engineer is you're one of the biggest majors in the School of Engineering. And that means you have backup. So these gentlemen are your primary advisors, but the main department also has an office of student services. And that office is a woman named Kate Stockton works in that office. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here because she's sick, like everybody else on campus. But this is a picture of her in the middle. And the office is located on the second floor of the JEC right across from the elevators. So in the event that you needed to connect with Professor Picu or Professor Hurst about getting a paper signed and they're not available at the moment that you need it, Kate would be a resource for you. And also if you had any questions about course planning, if your faculty advisor is not available at the time, she would be somebody that could help you out. So this is a picture of the outside of their office, and Tom Haley is another faculty member who you'll probably see roaming the halls on the second floor of the JEC, just like these two gentlemen. And it's a nice office to get to know, so starting next fall, pop in and say hello to them, okay? So now, let's get to it. So Professor Catalin Picu and Professor Josh Hurst are the advisors that you're going to meet today. And you like the pictures? I had to scrape up there. You look fabulous in the picture. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Professor Picu to introduce himself and to go over his contact. His office is located on the second floor of the JEC, just like the main student services office. Professor Picu. Yeah, thank you.
And are we supposed to sit or?
However you want to do this.
Because I feel a little bit uncomfortable to just sit and talk to students.
Okay.
I never do that. So thank you for organizing this, and thank you for coming. And I hope the meeting will be useful for you. Probably this group actually combines advisees of both of us, so half of you would probably be my advisees, and the other half will be Josh's advisees. I think the first thing I'm supposed to tell you is how you get in contact with me. And you have my email here, and I believe my phone number.
Yes.
All right. But the best way to arrange to schedule a meeting would be if you just send me an email, and I'll get back to you and let you know when we can meet. So let's keep that in mind. About me, I don't know whether I'm supposed to tell you all the secrets, of course. You know, when I was a little bit younger than you are now, that is, I was thinking about, you know, where should I go, what kind of major should I get, and all those good things, you know, we just went through. You know, I really enjoyed physics, and I wanted to become a physicist. And, you know, we had this a family member who was actually a mechanical engineer. And he said, you know, I mean, physics is really great, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it, but salaries are not that good, and you know, maybe you can't find that many jobs, so why not mechanical engineering? So I'm like, really, what is that? It has to do with cars and, you know, like tightening screws and things like this, or what? So, you know, in due time, I eventually ended up going to mechanical engineering. I took lots of design courses, did all those projects, and struggled for everything. And eventually, I became a faculty. And then I had freedom, and I ended up doing physics. So, you know, this is how the cycle closes. So with respect to what kind of research I'm doing, well, you may or may not know that faculty at schools that do a lot of research actually spend most of their time actually doing research and working with grad students, and a little bit less time teaching and interacting with undergraduate students. You know, RPI is not really a teaching school per se. It's somewhere in between a teaching school and a research university. We think that we are more on the research side, but you know, different faculty and administrators will have different opinions, so let's not come to a decision on that. So faculty actually spend a lot of their time bringing money, hiring grad students, essentially running a small company. So each one of us pretty much runs a company with somewhere between, let's say, 4 and 10 employees, right? And these are the grad students. And we are supposed to feed them. We are supposed to pay their salaries. We are supposed to feed them over the summer, make sure they graduate, make sure they actually write papers and all that, and they learn something in the process. We also do teaching, by the way. Spend probably about, I would say, if I talk just for myself, I would say maybe like 15% of my time teaching, and maybe another 10% or so interacting with other grads. So 75% is research, and you can see that you know, that actually takes most of the brain power and, you know, attention span. So what am I doing in terms of research? As I said, I'm doing sort of physics of solid state, physics of materials. So we are looking at, with a mechanics flavor, right? This is how we combine, you know, my starting point with where I eventually ended working. So we work on materials. We work on how materials deform, how we can make them better, how we can actually expand the range of applications. And at this time, we work on 2 types of materials, one for the good and one for the bad. The one for the bad are explosives. So we do work on how explosives deform, you know, what are the mechanisms of deformation, how can you make material that burns really fast burn even faster, and release even faster the energy, so you can do better good, I suppose. So to compensate for that, we also do work on very soft materials, fibrous materials, materials made from fibers. And there are many examples of this type, you know, but probably the most important ones are within our bodies. So cartilage, tendons, membranes within the body, what is called the extracellular matrix, which is, you know, this. So there is basically a structure, a fibrous structure that actually holds organs together. Cornea is actually made from collagen fibers, very beautifully arranged in like a square button like this, layers of collagen fibers, you know. So we work on these things. We try to understand how they deform, how damage occurs, can you repair damage, so that kind of stuff. And we'll see if you have questions at the end after Professor Hurst tells his story.
I probably have one more. Do you have those slides I put up?
I do. You
right.
tell me.
Oh yeah, so my name's Josh Hurst. I guess we can go back.
Let's go back.
Yeah. So
Hold on a
similar
minute. There we go.
way to contact me is through email. I don't really use any of the other technology things very well. So send me an email and then we can arrange a meeting. And we have all that other stuff. My office is right next to Kate and Tom's office. So that's an easy way to find me. I'll go to my slide.
Yeah. Why is it only partial?
Cool. All right, I don't know. All right, so just give you a little bit about my background. So I came from a really small school. So I graduated class of 26. That's small? Okay. Is everybody awake? All right. Hey. So apparently 26 is pretty small. So I have kind of a unique experience, I'd say, coming from a slightly isolated place. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I went to college. They asked me, what do you want to do? I said, I have no idea. My last class in high school was physics, so I figured physics is a pretty good place to start. So I started in physics. That was my major.
No way.
And then when I took a class, oh, first I didn't really know what a derivative was. I'm sure most of you probably took pre-calc in high school. Is that yes? How many people took in pre-calc? All right, almost all of you. So I went in, first day at RPI, first class was physics, and they were just kind of casually said, well, everybody knows the derivative of x squared is 2x. And I just remember thinking, this is not good. everybody knows what's going on. I have no idea. I had an amazing instructor in physics. She was really exceptional, helped me out a lot. And I made it through my first semester, and apparently all the remaining semesters after that. I took modeling and controls. Anybody? No, you won't be taking in that class. So this is a really popular class that you'll take called modeling and control. And that's a joke. You don't get it quite yet. I took that class as a sophomore, or junior? Junior. Oh wait, I got ahead of myself. When I was a sophomore, let me start this over. When I was a sophomore, I took a class called, I think it was Mechanics of Materials. No. What was that called? No, it was the one with the electrons and the crystal structure. Material science for engineers. Yes, actually it wasn't called that a long time ago. I took that class. I learned about crack propagation. Now you can predict what kind of strength, and how you can relieve the stress by drilling a hole. And I thought, wow, I didn't know you could do all that stuff. That's really cool. So that changed my major to mechanical engineering. And then when I was a junior, I took this class called ModCon. And I saw this balancing experiment. And that really set the tone for the rest of my academic and professional career. So I started taking, learning about this area, robotics, mechatronics, control, optimization, and dynamics. So that really became my focus. After I graduated, my master's and PhD here at RPI, so I kind of know the system pretty well, you might say. Then I was really fortunate after I graduated to work at some really amazing places. So my first job, I worked for a small company around 135 people. And they did everything from designing. So the first job was working on these little vehicles on the top left. So they're called automated guided vehicles. So they basically drive around factories, and they also install them in hospitals. They'll drive around different parts of hospitals, pick stuff up and drop stuff off. So they're called automated guided vehicles, and our company did everything from designing the mechanical structure, ordering the steel, welding it together, and painting it, putting all the electronics inside that. They designed all of the software for that to work. All of the navigation and guidance systems were developed in this company. And then we also delivered it to the customer, and we would sit down in factories watching the vehicles operate on 12-hour shifts to make sure everything was okay. So it was a really great job because I got to see everything from what a first-year engineering student does all the way to what the customer sees and what gets delivered to the customer. So it was really a great experience to see all the different realms and degrees of engineering. So it was a really great experience. And then I kind of had the opposite extreme, was I got to work at GE Research. And at the Research Center, I worked on flight controls for the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. And that's basically a jet airplane that can hover. And to appreciate the story behind that, they've had a jet that can hover. It's called a Harrier. So maybe about 10 years ago, they had a Harrier. And in order to get the Harrier plane to hover, they had to train a pilot. I think it takes 3 years for a pilot to figure out how to maneuver this jet to make it hover. So in engineering, we solve problems, and training a pilot and having them do this very highly skilled job was a challenge. So we designed a solution with controls engineering to make a jet hover. So I got to work on these flight controls that if you're going to be I guess none of you will, if you're mechanical engineers, well, AERO engineers will kind of appreciate that seeing a jet airplane hover is a pretty amazing thing. So I got to work on that, and it was an extremely research intense. So sometimes when you get a PhD, because you spend so much time in a very deep field, you think, does anybody really use this stuff? When you went to the research center, you went, yeah, these big companies use this state-of-the-art research to make real things happen. So it's really cool to see where all this high-tech kind of stuff goes. So that was really great. Got to see the other end of the spectrum in terms of engineering. And then the coolest part is I ended up coming here to teach all of these cool things. So I've taught a bunch of different courses, and my background's in modeling, control, dynamics, design, and all of these different things. So that's my background. And if any of you are ever interested in robotics, control, or optimization, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about any of those things. And to end, those are some cool pictures of the jet, and that's how it hovers. So that's just, to me, that's just what makes me smile. It's such a cool thing. So I'll leave you with that.
Thank you. So at this point, we're going to open up the forum for everybody to ask questions, and I'm hoping that some will volunteer, and of course you are more than welcome to ask questions to our students as well. So anybody?
On the F-35 jet, on the internet, some people say Lockheed Martin have data from the Russians. Is it true?
Have what?
They buy data from the Russia.
Oh, for that?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And if I did, I would say the same answer. So the interesting thing about this was, if you want to know a little bit of the story at the time, the government was funding development of two different jet planes. So Pratt & Whitney and Rolls-Royce were developing, I might have got those companies wrong. GE and Rolls-Royce were developing a jet engine. Pratt & Whitney were developing a jet engine. The idea behind that was if you have two people developing a product, they're going to try to make it better, faster, cheaper, and that competition will make the performance better. And then when the economy got challenging, a decade or so ago, the taxpayers said, wait a second, why are we paying to develop two separate multi-billion-dollar jet engine programs? And they had to basically cut one of those. So the GE one was the one that actually didn't make the cut. So I don't know what's on the actual jet that's flying. Maybe Martian crew. That's yeah.
Are you doing any research?
Oh, so that's also a good question. So Catalin does 75% research, I'd say.
I would say.
25% other things. I kind of have the opposite, so I just teach. So I teach a lot of courses, and I'd say I teach 75% of the time, and all the other time is other things, meetings and administrative stuff. So most of my job actually is teaching. I wouldn't say I do research in these areas, but I know, from working in these areas, kind of these fields and technology very well. If you work, or even if you do research and you use software and develop things, you're always working on. Rather, if it's not what industry is doing now, you're working on what industry is going to be doing later. So the researchers and the instructors are always kind of cognizant and aware of what the industry is doing, the tools to be successful.
Yes, Marie.
If a student wanted to do research in any of the areas that you were kind of interested in, Professor Hurst, would you be able to kind of direct them to faculty here that would be doing those?
Yeah, I know those
kinds of
people,
cool
yeah.
things?
So I know all the faculty members that do research in those areas if you're interested in any of these particular areas. That's a great question.
Thank you for
And
that.
that would have been a
Professor
more
Hurst.
appropriate answer had I been aware of that.
Thank you.
Just following up on your research, have you found that taking research while you're also taking courses helps students with coursework, or is the research more in field specified areas that it doesn't quite relate to our coursework as close?
Sure. So I'll answer a bigger question first. There was some study somewhere about success in academics based off of some of these things, doing undergraduate research, participating in clubs, dancing and playing football, and pretty much across the board, any extra activities that people do, they said it really enhanced their academic experience and performance. So I would say that in regards to research, yeah, I think it helps students learn and perform better.
I would just add that there is a fine balance between how much time you spend doing all these other things and how much time you put in the coursework. Because at this stage for you guys, I think you really have to focus on taking courses, passing those, and developing your background. Because without that background, there is no issue about research, right? So there is no discussion. Because research is like the superstructure. So don't worry about research at this point. I would say, you know, go 1 or 2 more years and then maybe another year and a half, let's say, and then you worry about research. But at this point, it's just about background building. Although maybe you are sick of background building because you've been doing that for like 100 years, right? So, but anyway, keep doing it for a little longer and it will pay.
What would you guys say would be like the best way to secure a job in engineering? Would it be starting off in research or internships or a combination of both? Or how do you guys go about that?
So many students do internships these days. I think this is becomes more like a norm than an exception. So yes, internships, co-ops. You can also get engaged with research in one of the labs here as well. And as you go to Arch, then you have a full semester to actually look into this over the textbooks.
Yeah, I think you'll get a degree that has, that shows you take some classes, you understand some stuff. But I think the important thing when you're trying to get a job is to have something that you can talk about that you can relate to your employer. And usually that is through those experiences, saying, I really like this topic, I did research on this, or I really like this controls part, and I participated in this club, or I did these projects and these classes, and I really liked it. So it's kind of showing that you have more intention and desire in a particular area, more than what just is written on your degree when you graduate. So just having that experience, enthusiasm.
It's really important, to actually figure out what you like. It's because you're not going to like everything. Hopefully, you're not going to dislike everything. So it's really key to actually come to an understanding of what are you going to be looking for, right? What are you going to like at the end of the day, right? What are you going to be looking for when you go out there? So, it could be playing soccer or, I guess, it's too late, so you cannot play soccer anymore. Right, so let's say controls, design, manufacturing, maybe the more theoretical disciplines like fluid mechanics, solid mechanics, right? So robotics, right? So you have to figure out what you like, and for that to happen, you have to expose yourself. You have to get exposed to all these things, to as many things as you can, through various means. Of course, taking courses is like implicit, but going out and work in a company for a while, work in a startup, see how it feels. Maybe take an inventor studio to learn how to come up with an idea and develop it. Your own idea, develop a product, see what looking at the market and working with people out there feels like, right? So get exposure to all these things, so you figure out what you want to do for the rest of your maybe next 10 years. Because things change so fast these days, so we cannot talk about life. It's just the next 10 years.
Quiet. Okay.
Do you accept graduate student who has a major in physics in undergraduate?
As graduate students. Yes. The major per se is not that important. Their experience is important. What they know, how they, do they know the tools, for example, that we use in the lab, right? So this type of questions. Of course, again, for you guys, it's too early to think about that. I mean, think about it, right? So you have, 2 years for masters, another 3 years to get your degree, undergraduate degree. So you are talking like 5 years from now, you are going to wonder, hey, do I want to do research or not? And a small fraction of people actually end up doing research, right? And most of everybody else actually finds all sorts of exciting careers out there, all sorts of other things. So research is not really something that everybody should shut for. Otherwise, we will go all hungry. I suppose there will be no food on the table.
By the way, the advanced explosive you mentioned, do you have a prototype of it?
No, I'm not going to blow up JC. They all blow up in the computer. It's modeling work.
Now, one of the questions that I get from these students in particular, a lot of students bring up coterm and the process of doing the master's, and also interdisciplinary coterm as well. What are your perspectives on that? Do you say yay for coterm, or is it something that benefits a mechanical engineer, or if they're interested in something like physics, would having a master's in physics be helpful? Like, what would be your perspective on that?
Coterm becomes more like the norm. So as time goes, you see the society are forced to keep people in school for longer. So, the richer the society, the more people can actually, follow up their dreams in a way, right? So you don't have to go mining or anything, right? You can just sit here and have a nice discussion and a cup of tea or something and study, all the sun. While that happens, the value of these degrees also gets degraded. So back in the 1950s, so let's say for my parents, not about my grandparents, right? So for my parents, having like a bachelor degree was like super great, right? Having a doctorate was almost like maybe a super small fraction actually of them had a doctorate, right? So now what happens is that having a bachelor degree is more like having a high school degree in the old days. And now having a doctorate becomes more like having a bachelor degree in the old days, you see? So the value of this, because the value of this degree is actually degrades. It's an inflation. And therefore, 20 years down the road, you are going to see that all the kids will actually have masters. And you, let's say 20 years down the road, if you, let's say, graduate with a bachelor and you don't get another degree in the meantime, you are going to say, hey, I have 20 years experience and this kid has a better salary than me, So this type of reasoning, you may want to think about it. So yes, coterminals are becoming more like, not really a must yet, but we are getting there. So getting a master degree, graduating with a master degree and not just with a bachelor degree. You may want to consider that. Again, that's not for everybody. Again, let's say you go through the undergraduate and you get, just happens that you generate this beautiful idea. You produce, you want to make some amazing material that will solve a problem. And you open your company. You don't need a master's. You'll be the CEO anyway. You'll get the best salary in the company anyway, right? So, so it's not for everybody. But yeah, again, figure out things. You have to discover these things just by experience, by exposure.
Yeah, I think for coterm or a master's degree in general, it will depend a little bit on what areas and specific things you like. So a little later, that's where we're a little able to help you more later on in your academic careers, is once you understand what you're really interested in. Because if you were to come to me and say, I'm really interested in controls, that's what I'll do for a career, I would almost certainly say you should really think about getting a master's, because it's really hard to know the tools and being effective in the controls discipline for the 4-year degree. You can do it, but I would say if you can get an extra semester or two, it's greatly valuable, especially if you have a very clear idea of what you want to do. Because then those extra 5 classes or 10 classes you take are very specific to your interests, which means you're doing it for a very motivated purpose, and you're going to learn a lot in that 1 extra or 2 extra semesters. If you have a other area of interest, maybe, I don't know, you want to do civil engineering, you just want to design plans for bridges, we would have you talk with somebody who's in that field, and they say, no, you can do, this is what you can do with a bachelor's degree, and that's probably enough for what you're interested in. So later, when you start knowing what I want to do, those are kind of conversations you want to have with your advisors and get some opinion about, should I go longer? What do I need to be successful in this year? It kind of depends on what you're interested in.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, I want to thank you both for coming, and you guys are going to hang out for a little bit, so if the students do have questions, they can come up. And like I said, there's snacks, so feel free to hang out and mingle for a bit, but we want to thank you all for coming, and hopefully
Do you
you
know when we'll
receive
see
some,
them next?
starting in
How good does our
September.
memories have to be?
We changed this to this semester specifically because starting in the fall, they will be meeting with you exclusively. Yes.
So you all get a quiz on this information. This fall.
Excellent. Thank you.